Now the reason why this car is with us today is because it came from the auction and we had absolutely no control over the temperature. In other words, you'd sweep from hot to cold and there was absolutely no change. Now what this is the blend door, and what it's doing is it's allowing air to either pass through the heater core or be directed around the heater core. Now all air entering the vehicle passes through the AC evaporator. And that way I can run the air conditioner to dehumidify very moist air even though it's very cool. And so this actual, I call it a blend door, but General Motors calls it a temperature valve. This actually sits in the lower cavity of the plenum, there down just above the transmission there tunnel. It has a gear type actuator that's going to move it here from the heat position to the cold position. Now one problem is it likes to twist the end off, and as you can see it just twisted that right off. In fact, if you look, the actual part of the plastic was very small. See, it was obviously made in an injection molding machine, and the actual component right there was really not that thick. So boom, it just sheared it right off. And one thing that kind of aggravates it is I got a combination of very hot and cold air coming across this, but especially the hot air can soften the plastic, and it just twisted it right off. Now one thing that I've seen suggested, if you have one of these vehicles and aren't having a problem, they remind you it's probably not a good idea to peg it there between cold and warm. Try to just use the 3 positions there in the center. But what happens if yours is broken? Well, what I did is I visited YouTube and I found quite a few videos on very surgically removing the side of the plenum and extracting the old temperature valve and installing the new one. And that's what we have done here. And it seems to work very nicely. Now, and looking at the YouTube videos, a couple of things to note is, first of all, the first thing you do is remove the driver's seat. You're going to need all of that room to get at it. Then you're going to need to remove the accelerator pedal, which is easy to do. Then after pulling the body computer and pulling the actuator off, there you have relatively good access to the side of the plenum. And I actually opted to hire a gentleman that was very good with the oscillating tool, Dremel, or the Makita. He actually used a Makita, and he carefully cut the plastic out for me. Now I found it was a little hard to pry it out because it seemed like the weight of the whole module kind of bared down on it. But once it slipped out, then I was able to insert this new one in. Had to fight with it to get it back, had him trim it a little bit to give me a little bit of space. And what happens is the 2 bolts that hold the upper part of the section that we cut out, we certainly didn't disturb those, and they helped to hold it in. So that worked out very nicely. Now right now, unfortunately, you can't feel this on a video, but yes, it very nicely swings from hot, very hot, to cold. And I do have the air conditioner on. It's about 50 degrees outside, so it's very cold outside. And yep, no problem. Now here I am doing what I said you shouldn't do, but here I'm going pegging it against the cold, and oh, that's good and cold, very cold. Here, revving the engine a little bit to help the AC compressor. And then as I go over here to hot, let's see here. Here it comes. Very hot. Yep, uncomfortably hot. So she's working, no problem. Now, as far as this part, from my local Chevrolet dealer with tax, it was about $29. Since we're a used car lot and we do sell quite a few Camaros, I went ahead and ordered another one online, exactly the same part number, And with shipping, I believe it was $19. So there I am going to have one in stock. I don't own an oscillating Dremel tool, but here, the next time we get one, I'll go ahead and invest in one and use that next time myself. So here we go. If you have a 2010 to 2015 Chevy Camaro, this is going to be a problem. Now you're saying, well, why didn't you just fix it right? Why didn't you take apart the dash and pull out the module? Well, unfortunately, in order to take the dash out, first thing you'll do is have to call your local windshield installer and hope they're able to remove the windshield without breaking it, which is hard to do because they like to use a urethane adhesive to hold it into the frame. So oftentimes it gets broken taking it out, unless he's real good. Then there's a series of bolts that hold the top there of the dash module. I have to unbolt it there from the side, drop the steering column. I'm going to have to, of course, disassemble the center console and this center section, and then remove the whole dash. And then I'd have to carefully remove the AC module from the vehicle, invert it there on the bench. It's actually plastic welded together at strategic points, so after removing some bolts, I'd have to actually drill out some plastic welds to actually gain access to this. It would be rather intrusive, very difficult, very expensive, and very time consuming. So that's why I opted, based on what I had seen other people doing there on YouTube, is to remove the plenum itself. If you do it, I recommend the Dremel oscillating tool, and be very careful. Don't cut into the heater core, and usually don't have to get too close to the AC evaporator. And whatever you do, clear any wiring harnesses out of the way. You don't want to cut into that, and make sure you have an excellent light. And there we were able to do it. And what was the time involved? Well, of course, this was the first time for us, so I would say there was probably about 4-5 hours involved. And that, of course, included removing the front seat. And I had attempted to remove part of the dash, but I didn't realize it. But this is all kind of one molded unit right here. And I think part of the reason for this is because of the structure of the airbag, is that they want to make sure that there's not pieces and parts that can come flying apart. So this is actually one big unit. Makes it very, very hard to work with. All right, well, we've got the heat back in our Camaro, so heating and air conditioning is working just fine, and we're ready to go ahead and deliver the vehicle.